Welcome to this explainer. When we think about AI, we usually picture it automating a factory floor or powering customer service chatbots. But what actually happens up in the executive suite? Today, we're exploring how artificial intelligence is completely reshaping the very top of the corporate ladder. Specifically, we're looking at the ultimate decision maker in large-scale operations like commercial poultry farming, the general manager. Okay, let's dive into this. The quote on your screen basically translates to, the general manager is the last person to lose their job to AI, but the first person whose workflow will completely change. You see, there's this huge misconception out there that AI is coming for the CEO's chair, but our source material makes it crystal clear. Strategic decisions still absolutely require a human being. But that old intuition-based workflow, those gut feelings, that is being entirely transformed by the sheer quality of information executives now have right at their fingertips.
So to really understand this massive transformation, here's a quick look at our agenda for today. 1. Top of the pyramid. 2. Traditional tasks. 3. The shift from intuition to data. 4. Decision augmentation. And finally, 5. Leadership skills in the AI era.
Section 1. Top of the pyramid, the GM's position. The sheer scale of responsibility here is just massive. The general manager sits at the absolute peak of the organizational pyramid. You've got production, quality and animal health, finance, marketing and sales, supply chain and human resources, and all of them report directly to the top. The GM's office is essentially the ultimate command room, where mountains of daily data from every single one of these sectors are funneled upward and transformed into actionable operational plans.
Section 2. Traditional tasks of the GM.
So before AI enters the picture, what does the GM actually do? Well, they map out the overall strategy. Are we going to expand, stabilize, or specialize? They approve annual budgets and make the tough calls on major investments, like whether to build new sheds or renew old equipment. They track major KPIs, manage high-stakes relationships with financiers and regulators, and bear the ultimate responsibility for the project's performance in front of the board. Honestly, it is a staggering amount of pressure. Which leads us to the traditional flaw. Historically, how did the GM track all those KPIs and make those massive strategic decisions? Well, they had to rely on delayed, periodic reports. Executives would compile all this data and hand it to the GM at the very end of the month. Think about that. Decisions about millions of dollars in investments were inherently looking backward. They were relying on what happened weeks ago, heavily supplemented by the GM's own gut feeling.
Section 3. The shift from intuition to data.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core shift we're talking about today. Before AI, you had those delayed monthly reports. If performance suddenly dropped in a specific shed, you might literally not know about it for weeks. Decisions were intuition-based simply because the data was stale. But after AI, the GM is suddenly equipped with real-time executive dashboards and predictive accuracy. They aren't waiting for a paper report anymore. They just grab a tablet and instantly see the live performance of every single shed on the farm. Response times shrink from weeks down to seconds.
Now, it is absolutely vital to remember this. The machine doesn't make the decision. The machine guarantees the decision is based on the full picture. I'll say that again because it's so important. AI is an augmentation tool, not a human replacement. The GM's role is the least vulnerable to full replacement, but they're incredibly well positioned to benefit from AI. The final strategic call is still in human hands, sure, but it's no longer based on an outdated report. It's based on complete, real-time reality.
Section 4. Decision augmentation with AI. Let's look at how this functions dynamically in the real world. Instead of spending days compiling spreadsheets, AI provides real-time executive dashboards for every single shed. And it gets even better. The system has automated deviation alerts. This means the GM doesn't have to go digging for problems. If feed consumption drops, boom, the system sends an immediate alert. Yet, the absolute most powerful tool of all might just be the what-if simulation models. Take a second and think about this specific scenario. What happens to our profit margin if the price of corn increases by 10%? In the past, answering that question would require a whole team of analysts crunching numbers for a week. Today, AI-powered simulation models allow the GM to test this scenario instantly. They can build these what-if models to test expansion or reduction decisions before actually executing them. Which shed is actually worth closing or upgrading based on its true projected return? AI significantly lowers the risk of these massive investments by predicting the future based on huge data sets.
Section 5. Leadership skills in the AI era.
Now, to pilot these powerful digital systems, the modern GM needs a new executive toolkit. They don't need to learn how to write code, they don't need to be a programmer, but they absolutely must master what our sources call executive reading of business intelligence dashboards. They need to know what every indicator means, when to trust it, and when to verify it. They also need a solid grasp of data governance, ensuring the data driving these massive decisions is completely secure and reliable. They must be comfortable navigating AI-enabled enterprise resource planning systems, like the predictive engines in SAP or Oracle. And crucially, they need digital leadership. They have to manage the human element, specifically handling any resistance to change from their own executive team as these new systems are rolled out.
But here's the thing about strategy. It doesn't execute itself. The GM can use AI to build the absolutely perfect, risk-mitigated plan, but someone has to actually turn that strategy into a daily reality on the ground. That heavy lifting falls to the production manager, which is exactly what we'll be covering in our next explainer.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a provocative thought. We've seen exactly how powerful AI is at giving the general manager the full picture. But human intuition has driven business for centuries. So I have to ask you, if you were the general manager of a massive operation with millions of dollars on the line, would you trust the algorithm's recommendation 100%? Or would you still insist on reviewing it manually yourself? Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and we'll see you next time.